Hey everyone, I'm Maddie. I'm the Director of Growth here at Fruition, and I am here with our Director of Education, Gilles Hudelot. And we are going to talk today about what happens when your 401k plan is terminated, or if you decide to leave a job, what you should do with that 401k plan. Don't want to leave that money behind. So, Gilles, what should we do?
Yeah, Maddie, generally there are four options. Really, there are three good options and one bad option. And we'll talk about the fourth one later. But the first is you can leave the money in the plan, right? Even if the plan's terminated, you still have a choice to leave it in the plan. Trustees have to maintain the plan until all of the money is out. Now, a lot of that depends on the size of your account. If you have less than 5,000, they can push that money out. But if your account balance is more than 5,000, you can leave it in there. A lot of times the reason people leave their money in is they may like the funds that they've chosen and they want to keep it in there, but it's just one more account that you got to keep track of. So a lot of times they're a better option. So option number two is if you've got a new plan with a new employer, then you can also join that plan and roll your old money over, transfer your old money over to the new plan. And that money is kept track of the same way that all your new contributions go in. But because it's rollover money, it's kept in a separate bucket and you have more flexibility. It's always 100% vested. So it always belongs to you. You can always decide to withdraw the money later on. It doesn't have to have a reason like you do for your regular accounts. And the convenience there, you've got your old money in the same place as your new money. So one account, one login, convenience. As long as the investment options are similar or equally good to your old plan, there's usually no good reason
Now,
not
can
to
I
move
do
your money.
that if, say, my current job is a 401k, but the new job I'm moving to, say they have like a fee or some different structure. Can I still roll over?
Yeah, absolutely. So rollover rules are really flexible. Just about any account can roll over to just about any other account. There are a few small exceptions. If you're in a smaller employer that has what's called a simple IRA, there are some restrictions there. Some non-qualified plans or not-for-profits or governmental agencies called 457 plans sometimes have restrictions. But for the most part, B, thrift savings plans, Ks, IRAs, can all move between each other without any problem. And the nice thing is that if you go directly from one plan to another as either a direct transfer or direct rollover, there are no tax consequences. All the money moves over. There may be some reporting, but no taxes are due on
We
any
love
of that
that.
money. Yeah, absolutely. So the third option is what we talked about is to move it to an individual retirement account. So here you go from an employer institutional plan to an individual account. So there's pros and cons to that. One is that it's much more flexible. Employer plans generally will limit you to, a dozen, 2 dozen funds that cover the gamut. It may not have your favorite fund, or it may not be in a category that you might like. Individual retirement accounts are offered by just about every financial institution. And so if you decide you want to move your 401k money or 403b money to an IRA, you can. One of the things you got to remember is yes, you get more flexibility and choices, but you've now moved from an institutional account to a retail account. And that's generally more expensive for the individual costs, but also the mutual fund expenses. So the very same mutual fund offered by the same company, let's say the Vanguard S&P 500 fund, index fund, um, if I buy it as an individual, it might cost me 25, 35 basis points. Basis points are 1/100th of a percent. Whereas if I invest that same fund in my 401k in their institutional share class, it might only be 5 or 6 basis. So there's a little bit of a difference in the cost for the same money management that's being done. And then the fourth option is to take it in cash. I generally don't recommend that. Remember, your retirement money is for retirement. If you withdraw it and spend it, then that's money that you're not going to have in the future. But more importantly, more immediately, that money is taxable. So whatever you just take as a distribution, it's taxed this year. So if I make $50,000, but I withdraw $100,000 from my 401k plan, now I've made $150,000. It's going to jack through all of my tax brackets. If I'm under the age of 59 and a half, and I don't have one of the exceptions, that's going to be on top of my taxes, a 10% early withdrawal penalty. And even if it's, hey, I'm going to take the money, but I intend within 60 days to roll it back into another plan, and so it shouldn't affect me. It will, because your old plan administrator by law has to withhold 20% of whatever they send out to you as a distribution. So let's say I have $10,000 in my 401k account. I get a check, but now they've withheld 20%. So now I get a check for $8,000. I'm taxed and penalized on the $10,000. And let's say I want to roll that over to avoid the taxes and penalties. Well, now I only have $8,000, but I owe $10,000 in rollovers. So I have to come up with the difference, the 20% difference, to make sure that I'm whole and don't trigger more taxes and penalties. Unless you really have a good reason for it, I would generally say roll it to a 401k, to your new employer plan, roll it to an IRA, make individual decisions if you need it, but don't take
Now,
the
do
cash out.
those tax ramifications exist whether it's a traditional 401k or a Roth?
It does matter on that end in that if it's a traditional account, you're responsible for the taxes on all of the money because that money is pre-tax, so you haven't paid taxes on it. On the Roth, it's going to depend on what the source of the money is. So if I've already paid taxes as an after-tax contribution, I don't have to pay taxes again as long as I've got the right reporting. But any matching contributions that might have been pre-tax from my employer, any earnings that I might have had from the underlying investments, those haven't been taxed, and so I'll owe taxes on that money.
So, what if I don't make a decision? What if I just am like, oh, I'm just going to leave it?
Yeah. So if you don't make a decision, a lot of it depends on the amount of money that you have in your account. Your plan, your employer, the administrator of the plan have some options. So generally, if you have less than $1,000 in your account, the employer can just kick that money out to you, right? So they'll send you a check minus the 20% withholding and the distribution fees to your last known address on record. So hopefully they've got the right address and you haven't
Fingers
moved,
crossed.
but you'll just get a check and then eventually you'll get the tax reporting form that says, hey, you got a distribution. You still have the option to roll it over, but again, same information that we talked about previously on taking the distribution. Now, if you have between $1,000 and $5,000, the employer can't send a check out, but what they can do is they can just pick a custodian, create an account, an IRA account in your name, and just move the money out of the okay to your IRA in your name. And again, hopefully they've got your address information correctly and you'll be notified and you'll know where that money is. But again, it's a little bit of an inconvenience for you, but because now you have this small account on top of everything else you got to keep track of. So you can make a decision within the timeline that they've allotted. That's generally best for you to be proactive about what you do. But whatever you do, consider, what are your goals? What are the fees? What are the taxes? What are the investment options? And then don't discount convenience is important, right? The harder it is for me to keep track of my finances, the less I'm going to be wanting to be involved with it. And that's when people kind of lose a little bit of momentum. But whatever you do, make sure you talk to a financial professional, a financial advisor, or a tax professional about your specific situation. and hopefully they can help you make the
And
right
what's
decision
normally the
for you.
timeline that people have to make this decision?
Normally, when I've seen it in the past, it's usually like a 60-day or 90-day window that they give people. And a lot of times they'll send reminders throughout because it's to their benefit as an administrator to get as many people to move because ultimately what they'd like to do is even though they can't shut down the plan until everybody's money's out, the faster they can move it out, the better it is for them. And remember, even if you decide you wanna leave your money in your old terminated plan, that's one of those things that they're not gonna be paying as much attention to the plans, even though as a fiduciary they have to. That means that your account relative to to the overall balance is gonna be bearing more of the cost. So eventually that plan is gonna become more expensive for you. So again, it's better to be proactive about this, and be in charge of
If
your own.
someone has questions where they just want help walking through this process, is that something they can meet with a mentor about?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got great one-on-one mentors that can meet with me or choose a mentor of your choice. Several of our mentors specialize in retirement plans and investment planning, so they can talk you through that. Again, we can't give specific investment advice, but this is more operational and nuts and bolts things, so we can definitely help out.